classics is going to be harmful to some degree, because they're not the most appealing books and they are a lot of work. But I think we just need to have a balance. And we haven't reached it yet, but we are certainly, I think, working toward it.
Classic books have difficult vocabulary, they have themes that they believe don't apply to them, and they also have problems, I think, understanding a time period that obviously they aren't accustomed to. So the book talked about how you need to apply more recent literature, young adult literature, so that they get a love for reading.
The thing I would say about Hunger Games is I have 5 copies of the next 2 books. They're constantly checked out. I have kids waiting in line, and I'm ordering 5 more copies, so I'll have 10 copies apiece. Honestly, never has anyone once in my life here at the high school come in and said, could I get a copy of Hamlet after they read Macbeth? Or what else did George Orwell write? Never. So this is, I mean, it's a good thing. I think I have kids reading that maybe wouldn't necessarily be interested in reading anything except what they're required to read.
What Kelly Gallagher was saying was that English teachers need to give students more control over what they read, more choice in what they read. And if we give students more choice in what they read, that they'll be more likely to read and become better readers. That if we continue to ignore what they like to read and just insist that they read the classics, that will lose them as readers.
You got to get them to try it first. You know, you have to set up a situation where there's low risk, where they have a chance to look and find something they like, where they know they're expected to find something they like. You know, that I don't like this isn't an excuse to not read a book. There's a billion books. Keep looking. You have to acknowledge that some kids can find books they like easier, and for other kids it's hard work, you know, and you got to go do the hard work. I think you try to surround them with books. You know, that's kind of the Daniel Fader background of me, that, you know, if there are books everywhere, they're liable to pick one up. And the more engaging the covers are and the colors, and you know, kids definitely will judge them by that. So you want to go with that.
There are tons of well-written young adult books. I mean, I think there's a stigma maybe with English people that, oh, it's not going to measure up. Of course, it's not classic literature, but it's very readable, very accessible, and highly interesting to high school students, which some of the stuff that they read is not that interesting to them.
I think we're still working on the old model that kids go to the library and check out books, and a lot of students just don't. And so I think we're teaching, like, we're going to teach you the classics in class, and you can read contemporary fiction on your own time. And I don't think we have really caught up to the fact that maybe that's just not true anymore. I don't think they have any idea how to go find a book. I mean, for the most part. They may have peer recommendations, which is awesome. If they have that, read what your friends are reading. Read Twilight, read, you know, whatever it is that people are into. So I operate on peer recommendations. What are my friends reading? But the problem is, when their friends aren't reading, how do you know what to read? You need somebody who has read a lot, knows what your interests are, knows what your reading level is, to guide you, not to select the book and say you must read this, but to, you know, give some guidance and point them toward the right book for them.
I think that with the goal that we have for having lifelong readers, we need to have books that we know they're going to read. The best way to go about that is to find trilogies or series, because once they read the first book, the way we're doing with Hunger Games, they only read the first book. And when they are interested, and they are interested, that's when they start reading all of the other books. We've obtained our goal by giving them the first book. I gave out Hunger Games about a week and a half ago. Within 3 days, about 5 of my students were done and looking for the next book. And we have 5 books in the library that are already checked out, so they can't get to them, so they went and bought their own copies. And I am in the process of trying to find copies for the second book and the third book. And since then, I now have about 10 other students who went ahead and read ahead. And when I asked them yesterday if they wanted to continue reading the series, if I went and got books, all of them raised their hands. I mean, I've never had that happen before. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I had several kids tell me, you know, I actually read that. And they worked through it, and then, like I said, there was a black market for the sequels. If the kid who had the sequel returned it, the library would just give it to the next person on the waiting list, and they knew that. So they would say to him, hey, don't take that back to the library, give it to me. I'll read it and then I'll return it. So just the work they went through to get their hands on Catching Fire and Mockingjay showed how connected they were with those books. And I still see them. We've been done for a month, and some kids are just getting their hands on the sequels now and are reading them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I have one boy that the kids in Sheltered are all resource kids or ELL kids. And one boy, his resource teacher, has several times said to me, what have you done to him? He reads all the time, and his mother said too, she doesn't understand what's happened because he always has a book and he's always reading. So that speaks volumes, I think, for trying to incorporate some high interest reading.
I can think of a lot of kids I didn't see carrying a book to read, who now I do. You know, and I guess that's the success. I can't think of a particular story, but I think I've noticed since more teachers have been doing it through the building, more kids are carrying books. I guess that's the success to me. I come out of a middle school past where we did silent sustained reading once a week the whole period. And the kids valued it a lot. When you tried to take it away, they really disliked it. I just could never figure out a way to do that in the high school schedule and the high school curriculum. So instead we're doing this year 7 minutes at the beginning of class. It's been a big hit. Really 90% of the kids, it's been complete compliance. And the other 10% have not been a problem. And I would say probably a good 25% of the kids can't help but read that book when they go home. That 7 minutes hooks them in enough that we've really, I think has been a big net positive to my class.
Well, I think that silent sustained reading is one way to do it, because if a kid starts reading a book that he likes, you know, maybe 10 minutes a day isn't really enough for him to read it, so that helps. And I think once they get hooked, then they start to read. Another thing is they have to have books that are available to them. So I have a big classroom library where I've had friends give me their old paperbacks, and I've gone to Scholastic book fairs and bought books inexpensively. I go to the public library book sale and I buy books there for 50 cents a piece. And I'm like a drug pusher, except I'm pushing books. And I say, ooh, if you like that one, you'd like this one. And I let them take the books home. If they don't come back, it's okay. I think the program that we do here at school, where we give the kids a backpack at Christmas or over the summer, where they can take home 3 or 4 books, I think that's important. You know, if you can't you have to give them time to find the books that they like, because if they're not a reader, that student's not going to go to the library and say, well, let me find a book I like. You know, that's not going to happen.
I do a reading blog. I have this little thing on, it's called Shafari.com, where I have my shelf and the kids can see what I'm reading. And I also take and I put a sticky note on books that I've just read. And I read a lot. I read 2 or 3 young adult books a week. And so when I bring those to school, they immediately check out when I put a little note on them. I have certain kids that just follow everything that I'm reading. And it's interesting because they also follow me on my Shelfari thing. They will, I have like a thing where I can look and see what all the kids are looking at on the computer just to make sure they're doing what they're right. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that girl's looking at my Shelfari so that she can see what book I'm reading. So it's just building a reading community.